Dauert immer. Okay. Okay. The beams are splintered, the bridge didn't collapse on its own. Artillery broke it. Bars cover the long, dusty windows. The remaining windows rattle from a strong gust of wind. They're covered in a thick layer of grime. They must have been like this for 40 years. Try to see inside. Dripping water falls from a high place. All you can see is the shadow of a collapsing staircase. You see a once bright mural towering above you. The signage has peeled off over the years, but you can still make out felt electrical R&D. A slogan used to intertwine with the loops a long time ago. Now only a shadow of peeled letters remains. It says, "Tomorrow is just a whisper away." Tomorrow is just a whisper away. Ah yes, their famous motto. You hear the man exclaim behind you. Fine example of technological optimism from... He says something but the wind blows and you can't hear him.
And Mikhail, notice the windows, especially with how there are no windows on the south side. This was to deal with.
A blond man stands next to his son, pointing to the weather-worn ruins. He sees you approaching and smiles.
You, officer, come to investigate the historic subtext of West Martinaise. I was just telling my son about this building. Not a lot of people realize the historic significance here. Very rich in hypertext.
Hold on, hypertext?
Yes, hypertext. Jan Karp and the collection of cultural hyperlinks.
Oh, yes. Wait, what was that about the windows before?
Oh, yes. So, Mikhail, they had to deal with monitor glare, especially in the summer. They still had vector monitors back then. That was 49 years ago, so they didn't have windows on the south wall.
Alright, you were talking about the building. Go on.
No, I can't say that we've met before, but I've heard of Kim, of course. Mikhail, say hi to the officers.
Was? Steht aber nicht. Very important. Mikhail, say hi to the officer. Rests his hand on the boy's shoulder. The child stays hidden behind the hem of his father's coat, clutching to his worm-themed coloring book.
Mikhail's a little tired today. We spent all night trying to run Orbis on his radio computer. Have you heard of it? It's a programming language used in Grad. Quite tricky, but he wanted to play this Grad-made adventure program. We've been getting really into worms lately.
The man speaks in the artificial cadence of a professor, or someone who's been on too many radio shows.
But I assume you're not here for giant worms, when there are so many real things to see. Just as I was telling Mikhail before, this is where the coalition landed in '08. We could be standing on what is the most interesting landmark in Revachol West.
Points to the building again. This man is your half-brother, you feel it, but why? What's so fascinating about an empty old building? Aha! But it's not just any empty old building. He raises his hand to his eyes, springtime sun warming his handsome face. All three of you turn to admire the mural before you. What not a lot of people know is, this used to be the R&D department of Feld Electrical. And Feld, which now sells ink cartridges, mostly was once a top dog in the turn of the century cybernetics boom. Hold on, what's R&D? Hey, Test 152. Glückwunsch. Look at... wait, what's an R&D department? Apologies, it's an acronym for research and development. They don't use it anymore. He smiled sprightly, loth lines around his eyes. You're probably more familiar with RTD, research and technological development. Look at the building looming over you. It looks old and weathered, with seagulls picking apart its stone and metal carcass. Bushy undergrowth has taken hold of the collapsed rooftop. Some kind of bird has set up a nest on a broken windowsill. I don't think I've ever heard of this Feld Electrical. That's not surprising. Only a vestigial ink cartridge and ferrotape manufacturer remains. He adjusts his suit jacket. They started out as a midway electronics outfit in Königstein two centuries ago. After an aggressive move to Revachol, Feld became a global player in the emerging personal electronics market of the pre-revolutionary era. Still, Tricentennial was beating them in business machines. He gestures toward the building. But Feld had an ace up their sleeve. Or should I say, they were developing an ace up their sleeve? He grins. I'm mixing my metaphors here. What was that ace? It was here in Martinez, possibly in this very building, that they developed prototypes for a, pauses for effect, tape computer. A tape computer? An elegant folding mechanism of rollers and ferrotape ribbons, portable enough to be a take-it-home solution, revolutionizing business machines, possibly even bringing them to the average consumer. Which is a feat of engineering even today's giants RIM, ICN and SAM haven't achieved yet. He grins, admiring the sentence he just produced. He assumes something like a combat stance, facing the wind. What happened? Indeed, what? The revolution? Boy whispers, wipes his nose on his sleeve. He nods. Unfortunately, their moonshot project never made it to the market. Feld's move to Revachol backfired. The revolutionary government liquefied their assets and expropriated those very advanced prototypes, possibly from this very building, or one of the adjacent ruins. Abbrocken. Rausch gut überstanden. Inzwischen, ja. Ja, ich mach heute ein bisschen langsamer. Also, ja. Ich hab's dann heute Morgen noch ein bisschen gemerkt. Hat ein bisschen gedauert, bis überstanden war. He pauses, pointing to the other building, then continues. All of this was built by Feld. Even the boardwalk. Wild Pines built Martinez proper as a resort for the middle management. Feld built the site of town for R&D. Was ein bisschen schnell dafür. Alles klar. You're saying that Feld Electrical built this boardwalk? Yes, they even built a pleasure wheel, but that got destroyed in the war. A wheel? Kid looks wistfully at the horizon, as if picturing gondolas rising to the sky. Yes, to lure in their star engineers. This part of Martinez was nothing but reeds before Feld arrived. They had to make the prospect of living here attractive. It was supposed to become a global center for innovation in cybernetics, but history had other plans. What happened to the engineers, the company people? Oh, I'm afraid it didn't end well for the boys. He smiles again, as if he's somehow personally responsible for this bleak turn of events. But this story is a bit too dark for little Mikhail here. Now, if you were to ask about tape computers. What did the revolutionaries do with those advanced tape computers? They used them for military communications, he says, while his son looks up, idly chewing on the corner of his worm-themed coloring book. But also to write and send out press releases. The most notorious example being Le Décret de Mars. What was there? What's the March Decree? I mean the radio transmission sent out to news agencies and world governments by the newly created commune of Revachol on the 7th of March in the year 02. It's a beautiful piece of text, actually. A singer-songwriter I know, Charette, called it a love poem to Revachol on her political concept album Bon Baiser d'Insolinde. You should read it. Every local library in Revachol stocks a copy of the decree. I tried to get Mikhail to memorize it. He looks at his son, who starts giggling, his face hidden behind the book. Oh well, tried to. Someone was much too interested in worms to be paying any attention. The kid takes a peek at the green and silver worm on the cover of the book, already forgetting about this part of the discussion. How did those tape computers work? Actually, no one knows. No one even knows what a computer made entirely of tape would look like. But word has it they were very elegant, exquisite, alien-looking turn-of-the-century hardware. He raises his finger, remembering something. 10 years ago, I did a little freelancing, I guess you could say. I was a special consultant for an exhibition at the Wumpty-Dumpty-Dom Center in Red Fort, Oranje. It raised the same question, and we had lengthy discussions with Paul Ockerman, who was head curator at the time. This was before the twins Keith and Guy Jost joined the team, trying to... Wait, did he just say Wumpty-Dumpty-Dom Center? He did it! He said Wumpty-Dumpty-Dom Center like it's the most natural thing in the world. Okay. The Wumpty-Dumpty-Dom Center, Paul Ockerman, Keith and Guy Jost. What are you talking about? The Wumpty-Dumpty-Dom Center for Contemporary Arts. There it is again, those words. The exhibition itself drew on Lagerman's notion of memory, and so there were some parallels that why the head curator Paul Ockerman chose to... Come on, there's no place called the Wumpty-Dumpty-Dom Center of Arts. In fact, I'm not. The Wumpty-Dumpty-Dom Center, he says casually, is a place you can visit if you're ever in Redford and are ever in the market for an exhibition space slash contemporary art research center. He clears his throat. But perhaps I should return to the tape computers. As I was saying, the device itself was very elegant, fragile even. One could write directly on the tape using a special chemical solution. The machine would then analyze the handwriting, perform operations and project output onto a wide screen. It was a beautiful, delicate thing. Cool. Very, very cool, he agrees. Though I understand the socio-economic causes of the revolution, it pains me to imagine the revolutionaries setting fire to this precious device. But so they did. The felt playback experiment vanished into the fires of '07. Wait, the felt playback experiment? Yes, the official name of the prototype. Some sources report it as the felt playback experience, but those are incorrect. Why did the revolutionaries destroy it? Who knows? Maybe it was an accident, or maybe they didn't want the technology to end up in the wrong hands. Either way, they're all gone now. All 3 versions of the prototype. Nothing but debris and ashes remain inside the building. He takes a step back. The boardwalk creaks mournfully in the wind. I wanted to ask something else. You look like someone who has money. Do you have any money? I do have some money, yes, but that's not what's really important here. He brushes it off like it's not a thing at all. Could I have some of that unimportant money then? Oh, no, I don't have it on me, officer. I was talking in more general terms. He looks uncomfortable, his left hand squeezing his son's shoulder. I'm just spending time with my kid here, showing him around the lesser-known parts of our hometown. It wouldn't be wise to carry huge amounts of cash on such expeditions. Not that he would have to worry about being robbed. He looks surprisingly buff. Does he work out? By the way, do you work out? I do some low-man-tang stick fighting now and then. Wait, what's low-man-tang stick fighting? It's an anthropological heritage of the low-man-tang people. Martial art of sorts. But what not a lot of books mention is that it also carries a cultural significance among the low-man-tangs, as it used to be the best means of showing off to look for a bride, which, interestingly enough, brings us to the socio-economic structure of the traditional rural tribes of the low-man-tang Isles, which, he goes on to give you a detailed overview of their way of life, the amiable, slightly nervous smile not once leaving his face. But anyway, he says after a while, I am boring you with details again. You were saying? I don't really remember what I was saying. Then I guess everything got said, right? Great, thank you for all the interesting information. No thanks to you for having me and little Mikhail here to pick your brain. A very interesting conversation indeed. Okay. Another power box charges nothing now, it's empty. Fence blocks the path, no way on from here. Wirklich? No. Okay. Humpty Dumpty Dom Center. Oh. wieso habe ich nur 2 Arme? Hey, die habe ich ja gesucht.
Here we go. Nice and easy. No way out, little guys. Not out of this jam.
There's a cylinder on the ground in which the man is arranging some netting. It looks like some kind of trap. He notices you.
Who's there? Oh, the police. Hello, officer.
His self-conscious enthusiasm renders his movements ungainly. He looks like your understanding of a scientist. Is
that the police?
Hey!
Why's the police here?
Man, was? Crypto-fascist?
Don't worry, Gary. I'll handle it.
You must be Moral, the cryptozoologist.
To what do I owe the pleasure?
Lena sent me. She's been really worried about you and is waiting for you to get back.
Ah, of course. Thank you for passing along the message. That damned waterlock is broken, and we can't go all the way around the 881.
Yeah, that was me. I broke the waterlock with my motor carriage. But it's fixed now. You can go back.
You broke the waterlock with the motor carriage? But there was a billboard in the canal. Not a vehicle, it said Samaran Butter.
No, it was all me. I caused your delay, and I'm sorry, but you can return now.
Did he say we can go back now?
Yes, Gary, we can go soon. If you see Lena, tell her I won't be long. I just have to do one more round. See if the phasmid has taken the bait. Then we're going.
He refastens a bit of netting that has come loose in the wind. Tell me about this phasmid you're looking for. Well, first of all, it's damn difficult to find, which is why we've been knee-deep in the reeds laying traps for it. What makes it so difficult to find? Good question. Being a phasmid of the order Phantasmodea, keine Ahnung, a ghost insect. It disguises itself as plant matter. In this case, the reeds. He looks around. Awful lot of reeds around, aren't there? And I suspect it may also have developed other specialized techniques to protect itself from predators, or scientists in our present case. What sort of specialized techniques is the phasmid using to hide itself? It's my hypothesis that it has evolved certain electrochemical defenses that allow it to interfere with animal perception, impeding pattern recognition, confusing the visual cortex. But I cannot describe how these defenses work, much less how they evolved, without studying a live specimen. Yes, it makes perfect sense. You're beginning to suspect there's something paranatural about this phasmid. How big is this phasmid? I'm expecting it to be quite giant. One known species of phasmid called the Megaphasmodea suensis is about the size of a grown man's forearm. So, he leaves the conclusion up to you. Why are you so interested in the stick bug? It doesn't seem to be as colorful as some of the other cryptids I've heard about. He flashes you a sideways smile. Typical rookie assumptions. Insects are much more sophisticated creatures than those unversed in zoology give them credit for. Even simply catching a glimpse of the Insulidian phasmid would be the apex of any cryptozoologist's career. But to study it and its defenses, find out how it stayed hidden so long. He shakes his head. What have you discovered about it so far? Very little, I'm sorry to say. No one's ever captured a specimen, so all our information is based on first and third-hand accounts. So no one's ever found one? Not yet. He holds up an index finger. That's what makes it a cryptid. But if no one can prove it exists, how do you know it's real? I know it is real, the cryptozoologist says, brusquely enough that even he seems taken aback by it. By which I mean, he says, gathering himself, I've heard enough first-hand accounts to believe quite firmly that the insulin phasmid is more than mere superstition. What would it be like to grasp and hold onto something you think is next to you, or just behind you, like a trace of vapor you exhaled one spring morning as a child? This is what he's searching for, a spectre. What makes you think the phasmid is here in Martinez? There was a credible sighting here recently. A pair of teenagers described a creature that matched the Insulidian phasmid to an uncanny degree, despite not knowing what it was themselves. It's the first credible sighting in several decades. Admittedly, it's an unusual location for the specimen, but with all the sewage runoffs upstream, it probably doesn't matter much anymore. Maybe Insulidian phasmid has died out. The cryptozoologist shakes his head vigorously. I have to resist the thought. Such an extraordinary creature is doubtlessly highly resilient. After all, it's greatly thought to be capable of parthenogenesis. Parthenogenesis? Yes, the females don't need males to reproduce. Makes it easier for a species to survive in adverse conditions. That's pretty clever. Yes, the Insulidian phasmid is a very clever insect. That's why it's so damn difficult to catch. But as a scientist, I'll try my best to remain dispassionate. There's nothing dispassionate about the way he talks about the insect. Tell me more about these traps. Well, he points at the cage of mesh and wiring on the ground. They may not look impressive, but Lena designed them quite cleverly, so I'm sure they'll do the trick. Lena designed the traps? Yes, he says with some pride. More than some. He admires this about her. How do the traps work? Simple. Attracted by the locusts, the phasmid crawls down the funnel, and having eaten its fill, can't get back out. At least that's the intention. The net isn't a perfect solution, but we didn't want to use anything that might damage the specimen's delicate exoskeleton. What are you using as bait? Locusts. He gestures toward the trap. Nearly all known phasmids are herbivores, of course, but we've hypothesized that the Insulidian phasmid might occasionally prey on other insects. Inside the traps, a number of locusts crawl and tumble over one another in a tiny, chittering swarm. What will you do if these traps don't work? They'll work, I assure you. The predatory hypothesis using locusts as bait accounts for the failure of previous efforts by other teams, which used plants. We have given this some thought. The traps do seem to be deftly and thoughtfully constructed. It's clear the cryptozoologist's wife knows what she's doing. Let me ask you about something else. Lena seems pretty eager for you to return. And I'm eager to return to her, I assure you. But I can't leave before we've finished with these traps. He looks south, where Lena would be. My wife understands that just as well as anyone. Come on, Morel! Ich hab schon vergessen, wie der sich angehört hat. Come on, Morel. We've been soaking out here for days. It's time to go back. And leave the traps? Absolutely not, yells in response. I won't let Lena down. Come on, she wants us back. I'm soaked up to my nuts over here. We'll both catch reed crabs if we don't dry out soon. Won't let Lena down. Sounds like the cryptozoologist's wife shares a special connection to the phasmid somehow. I didn't know the phasmid was so important to Lena. Of course it's important to her. She's seen it. A verified sighting on record. One of only 4 things for this century, and it's hers. She's seen it? Really? She sighted the phasmid? Yes, that's how we first came to know one another, in fact. But that's her story to tell, not mine. He coughs, then continues. Needless to say, you must ask her about the mysterious phasmidoid. Suffice to say, it's long been our dream to find proof of the Insulidian phasmid together. I can't abandon course now. Another cough into his fist this time. Maybe you could go back to the whirling, warm up, come back to check the traps later? No. The traps need to be monitored on a regular schedule. What would we do if the phasmid were to starve while we were sipping tea at the hostel? He's dead set on this. I could go for some trap setting. What if I check the traps for you? He looks at you with obvious surprise. I didn't expect you to take such an interest in our work here, officer. I'm all in with the scripted shit. I'm hooked. Caught the bug, I see. He cracks an unwieldy smile. It's easier to get caught up in the search than you'd imagine. Where are these traps? There are 4 in total. One is to the south on this little peninsula, by the boathouse there. He points south. It's very near. Another we set in Land's End to the northeast. It's behind a small sand dune, there, on your way to the old radio tower, after the church. The third is set near the canal, where you crossed, by a concrete slab. A big thicket of reeds going up the slope, and among them, he gestures to the trap in from front of him. You should check at least one of those before returning to this one. Since I just said it, this one's more of a technicality, but still, better safe and stupid than sorry. What do I do if there's a phasmid in one of the traps? Bring it to me at once. Just make sure the trap is closed tight. But if I encounter the phasmid in the wild? That's highly unlikely, officer. But in the event you do, takes out a small white spray can. I'll spray you with a pheromone mixture I developed. It's made of musk and research chemicals. The pheromones should attract the insect to you, or at least prevent it from bolting at the sight of you. It's quite potent. Will last you about a week. Lay it on me, thick. He doses you with the odd-smelling spray, double helping as you present your other armpit, and then gives you a satisfied nod. I'm ready. Let's get to it. Thank you for your help. Gary and I will start breaking down camp. If you have any more questions, now's the time to ask. Finally, you're being sensible. I'll start packing right up. What about his eager-to-leave friend Gary there? Talk to him too, perhaps. How did you become a cryptozoologist? I've just always liked animals and puzzles. Searching for cryptids is a bit of both. He seems reluctant to talk about himself, but he'll open up if you prod a little. So you're living your childhood dream out here? His eyes narrow. It's not child's play just because I have to traipse through the mud every so often. Why not just be a zoologist? Real animals are puzzling too. Real? He scoffs at the concept. I know you think one is a respectable profession while the other is superstition. Everyone does. I don't. It's a profession just like any other. Indeed. My methods do not differ from other scientists. I simply draw upon a wider variety of evidence, and I have more hope than something truly surprising might happen. And has anything truly surprising ever happened to you? I have yet to catch a cryptid, if that's what you're getting at, but I have come close. Interesting. Something for later, this close call. What kind of evidence do you use? Everything from forgotten regional lore to newspaper accounts like the one that brought us here to look for the phasmid. I keep a very open mind. So you have never discovered a cryptid? No. Very few cryptids are ever discovered, and not for a lack of trying. To stay hidden in a crypt is a cryptid's primary quality. It's even in the name, cryptid. So how many cryptids have been found? Of the list of cryptids kept by the Cryptozoological Society of Germany, which is 4,082 items long, about 2,000 have been confirmed as hoaxes. Oh. 2 are categorized as confirmed discoveries. The rest are in differing stages of discovery, refutation, and data collection. Only 2 have proven to be real? Yes. The Shotokan forest pygmy, who turned out to be an extinct species of primate, and a cave salamander from Yugograd, who is honestly quite unremarkable. It's in a zoo somewhere. We cryptozoologists are brutally honest with ourselves, more so even than the public. Most cryptids are hoaxes, or they are never found. That does not mean we should stop searching. Then the Insulindian phasmid will be the 3rd. Indeed. He does not smile, just looks you in the eye. It's a forceful gaze. If our expedition is successful, every paper in the world will report on it. From Revachol to Doshantu. It will be a zoological miracle. Thanks for explaining that. Now about something else. Let's talk about specific cryptids. He eyes you skeptically. Alright, what cryptids precisely? I usually discuss these things with specialists, so I don't know what... You need to ask him about specific cryptids you've heard about from Lena, or his friend Gary. He won't just talk. Which cryptid did you almost catch? You said before that you almost caught one. A willow person. It's a long story. One non-specialists would find rather dull. What are willow people? They're not people, really. Some argue that they are not even animals, as they seem to have evolved directly from trees. He says it in a self-explanatory, everyday manner. They're very, very thin, almost flat, in fact, and can camouflage themselves easily, wrapping themselves around trees and blending in with the tree bark. In that way, they are not too dissimilar from the phasmid we are looking for here. Wait, so I may have seen these willow people without knowing it? You probably have. How did you almost catch a willow person? Gary and I painted an entire grove's worth of trees in slow-drying paint. It was a bright lavender color. I was hoping one of the willow people would get paint on it and not be able to camouflage itself. After waiting in hiding for hours, I saw a figure slip from one of the trees, a lavender shadow dashing through the grove. And then I chased it with a net. Not very elegant, but you can't be elegant in the field, and well, it was faster than me. A lavender shadow? Yes, I know it sounds like we were snacking on funny mushrooms, but I did see motion and color. Mine is not a confirmed sighting of cryptid, however. Much goes into verifying these things, and my account comes short of a few standards. And Lena's sighting of the phasmid, is that confirmed? He replies quickly. It's 100% verified and meets all the standards of an authentic cryptid sighting. I know all about the kind green ape. Look, I even have a kind green ape pen. I see you've been talking about cryptids with Lena. He smiles. The kind green ape is one of her favorites. A warm wave passes him. Of course, the kind green ape is her favorite, he thinks. We traveled to Tian'an to look for it once. Gary and I got stuck in a rainstorm though, and had to spend most of our time there in a little village. The search was fabulously unsuccessful, but the people were very nice. I'm glad they didn't understand what Gary was saying about them. What? Tian'an? They're just on a different rung of the ladder moral. I had no problem with them. Really? You kept complaining how dirty everything is. But we digress. They're nascent culture. I just didn't feel comfortable and let's change the topic, okay? Talk about your critters or whatever. Mumbles something. Yes, back to cryptozoology. You don't want to sow disagreement between friends. I know about the most dangerous cryptid, the gnome of Jeroma. Formerly the most dangerous, yes. But do you know the most dangerous living cryptid? I can try to guess. Believe me, you won't guess it. You either know or you don't. He corrects his head and says, as if it's the most sensible thing in the world. The most dangerous cryptid is a carnivorous ruminant, known colloquially as the dread moose. Get out of here! No, I will not get out of anywhere. He lashes immediately. The dread moose is a widely reported cryptid from Ada. It subsists entirely on flesh and has even been known to dig up fresh graves in search of sustenance. Hold on, does it also attack people? Human remains have been found deep in the forest, torn apart, then trampled into the mulch by large hoofs. Infer from that what you will. Okay, what does the dread moose look like? Just like an ordinary Arden moose. And how can you tell if it's the ordinary or the dread kind? You can't! That's what makes it so dreadful and hard to identify. But I am 100% behind the dread moose. I utterly believe it exists. You're right too. He gives you an approving tip of his head. The bodies found in the forest are just one piece of physical evidence. We also have sightings in Vasa, reaching back 4 centuries. In fact, we may be close to capturing a live specimen. Modern genetic methods may prove crucial in differentiating the dread variant from the herbivorous one. Anyway, just for you to continue. I know the biggest cryptid, the giant of Kokonua. That's impressive, I guess. He does not seem that impressed. But have you seen it with your own eyes? Yes. Remarkable. When? I'm having trouble remembering. That's what I thought. You haven't actually seen it. And I can't imagine how you could either. The Samarskald desert region has been embroiled in a civil war for the last 8 years. I fear this mindless barbarism may have wiped out the elusive creature entirely. Sightings of towering luminosities have grown rare recently, while they once used to be constant. I know about Cryobacter catlensis. Oh, everyone knows about that one, thanks to Professor Mijanou being the talk of the town for a time. Coughs in his fist. Although probably because his life ended as a result of his work in Katla. No one remembers his contributions to the search for the Nongok. Nongok? A flightless cursor owl found in the Seminine Isles. Its long legs permit the non-ock to run faster than any other avian, perhaps any other animal, who knows. When it's not hunting its prey, in this matter, the ock hangs from 3 branches, like a bat, waiting to dive on helpless prey below on the jungle floor. Mijanu liked extreme animals, you see, one of the few figures of the academic establishment I respect. Really a shame she disappeared. When did she disappear? Oh, decades ago, in the 30s. I didn't know her personally, of course. A chasm of academic pretension still stood before us, even though she had unusual courage for someone from the other side. Just tell me about a cool cryptid, any cryptid. No offense, officer, but I'm not much of a pedagogue. I don't know what I would have done if Lena hadn't persuaded me to go back to field research. You should ask her, if you want interesting stories. Me? I'm not a people's person, unless you haven't noticed. And I don't make a good lecturer. My strength lies in fieldwork and persistence. He brushes an errant strand of hair from his eye. Enough tales then. I'll get going. Soggy locks smell of ignition fluid. Still they won't light up. It's almost impossible to get a fire going this near to the ocean. Tiny cages carefully constructed. These heavy military blockades are riddled with bullet holes, crumbling.
Hello, I'm Gary. Very generous of you to help us out, officer.
Dem sein 3D-Modell und sein Porträt sehen komplett unterschiedlich aus.
I'm just waiting for my friend Morel to finish up with his insect traps so we can return to civilization.
Not a lover of the great outdoors.
I like nature, just not this bloody coast. It's mostly drunks and degenerates that come here.
Sadly, I think I might be a drunk or a degenerate, maybe even both.
Dark times will do that to good men.
Do you know anything about the man hanged behind the whirling in rags? Oh, so that's what the RCM in Martinez is about. Great. He nods in sincere approval. Great to hear someone's finally taking care of that. So you do know something about it? No. He shakes his head emphatically. Then corrects his tie. Nothing. He was some kind of mercenary, but everyone here knows that. I'm just glad to hear you're looking into it, that's all. He's not feeling very comfy in his clothes, is he? Strange. Is this your mark? My mark? Why would you think that? You look like the kind of guy who might have a collection of mugs like this. Home. His colonial mug collection. How do you mean? Forgive me, officer, but we've only just met. You're acting kind of suspicious. Did I mention the mug was found at the scene of a lynching? Okay, I admit it. I threw the mug away in the trash container behind the hostel. I know I shouldn't have, and I'm very sorry, officer. You're not going to find me, are you? Ho. Nah, Gary, I just want information. Whew, he's visibly relieved. Thank you. You won't regret this. I won't use another man's property to dump my garbage ever again. I don't know what got into me, really. Work has been stressful lately. Damn Koiko's prince dumping us out of competition. What did you do, Gary? Nothing. Nothing, just answering some questions. Helping out the law. How did you get into the trash container? I know a guy who works with the trash collection services, CS Municipal. He gave me a master key for the trash containers of Martinez. But why would you need to get into everyone's trash? So I can use the Wording's trash compactor to store my own stuff, he says, bowing shamefully like a fallen knight. Garbage disposal is expensive as hell. The damn Indians run it like a mob. I'm sorry, okay? Thought I could cut costs. I shouldn't have. Shouldn't have disgraced myself. Gary, did you put the clothes of a murder victim, the man who was hanged behind the wedding in rags, into the trash container? Officer, please. He raises both hands. Let me explain. It's not like that. Go. I was only cleaning up. I live right across the yard from where he was hanged, and I saw him stripped naked. All clothes lying. All the clothes lying around in the yard, smelling. People are animals, you know. Yes, yeah, what happened? When I came out to clean up the rags, because no one else would, I put them into the Wording's trash, along with a broken mug, admittedly. Changes his mind mid-sentence. Okay, I was coming to throw the mug away and, well, I threw the mug there and the clothes too. What? As it shifts uncomfortably, a series of clicks, like the clinking of glass beads against one another as they roll across a hardwood floor. You've heard the sound before, but where? You wouldn't know anything about the victim's missing armor, would you? Armor? No. Changes his mind. I mean, yes, of course. I know he was wearing armor, but I don't know anything about it. There's something going on here. You should observe him more closely after this topic's concluded. What's that strange sound? What sound? Don't mess with me, I think you know what I'm talking about. I haven't the slightest. There's lots of weird stuff out here in the reeds, though. Insects, trash, could be the wind shifting some garbage nearby. The sound you heard was not the sound of something easily abandoned. Let's move on for now. I hope I could help your investigation in my small way. Wait, does this mean you've been in his apartment on Everard's behalf? That was his colonial mug collection. Perhaps this could soften him up further. Are you a cryptozoologist too? No, I help Morel with research sometimes, and I've learned some things along the way, but I don't usually go in for picnics like this on my own. There probably is a follow-up to this, but you can't think of any. Doesn't matter. Waste of time anyway. Gotta keep moving. So, Gary, you live nearby, in an apartment in Martinez? Sure do, officer. His eyes narrow slightly. He's wondering where this is going. And you're a big man from Helmdall, fan? The color drains from his face. How? I saw that ridiculous poster in your apartment, along with all your other colonialist memorabilia. But why were you in my apartment, officer? Just doing Mr. Clare a small favor. So, you work for Everett Clare? He realizes what's going on and changes his tone. Officer, please tell him we're good. No, tell him I'll make it up to him. What have I done? He'll send the muzzle after me. Man looks around, whispering. He makes sure no one hears you talk. As he lowers his tone, he hunches his back. Our discussion on this topic is over, Gary. Of course. He looks around nervously. I won't do it again. If there's anything I can do to assist you, or the Union, just ask, okay? I'll try to help if I can. Scared him proper. He's positively melting from fear. He has to prop himself up with a lot of anger to keep it together. Why is he shifting around like that? Analyze Gary's composure. That shirt looks very uncomfortable on him. Look at the buttons, barely keeping the thing together, as if something is ready to rip out from underneath. His massive musculature. No, he's scrawny. Try again. Something worn underneath it. Yes, like a piece of ceramic armor, for example. One that makes a clicking sound when the plates meet each other, resembling pearls or marbles, stolen from the corpse in the yard near where he lives. I see you're a connoisseur of high-quality combat gear. He freezes, then sighs heavily. I knew you'd figured it out, officer. I'm sorry I didn't tell you at once. He unbuttons his shirt. You see gleaming white ceramic shine underneath. A thin layer of interlocking plates covers his gaunt torso. I was ashamed of what I did, and I didn't want you to know. This shame is surprisingly sincere. Gary, what's going on? Later, Morel, I've got apologizing to do. Give me that armor now. Yeah. He sighs again, hangs his head, and unbuttons his shirt fully. A cuirass that matches the dead man's boots comes into view. Soon it is in your hands, smelling of his sweat. But so light to hold, like a bag of cotton. Why did you really put those clothes in the trash? Everyone was picking those pieces off him, and I was watching them do it. And they scattered his clothes all over the yard. Everything was smelling. He looks at his feet. So I went there to take out my trash and started cleaning up. All those rags on the ground, him swinging up there, and swallows. I had a lapse of honor, sir. I thought, he's a foreigner. They all say he wasn't from here. Only the cuirass was left, so I stripped it off him. It was early in the morning. No one saw me. I took it with me. It was a mistake. Had I known it'd give you guys trouble, I wouldn't have. His lips start quivering. Fuck. Why did you lie to me, Gary? Because I was weak, he says, staring at nothing in particular. I should have told you the moment I saw you, but... The hell, Gary, you in trouble? I'll explain later. He doesn't muster up the strength to yell. You know who killed the hanged man? I always thought it was the Union, but I sure as hell won't go around saying that anymore. You have my words, but I don't know, and I won't be running my mouth on this subject anymore. Are we done here, Gary? Yes, absolutely. I will never do anything like this again. He looks around, relieved of some burden. his mouth still quivering. I won't mess with Mr. Clare either. You have my word. Thank you for your cooperation. Pain threshold volition. -1 empathy. Das sieht komisch aus. Okay, that patch of reeds over there, it's a great place to hide something, kind of out of the way, being so close to the water. What is this about? Nothing, just a hunch. The hunch passes, leaving you there by the old... Ich hatte es mal im Kopf, wie man das ausspricht. Die Boje, oder hier halt. Bobbing in the water, time to go. Well, bobs in the water, number and it says 11. Ich glaube, spricht man einfach nur Bui aus oder irgendwie so. No boat in the boathouse today. Ground. Behind you, the ruins of a residential building rise over the reeds, shielding them from the wind. The reeds rustle confidentially, reach for the trap. Locusts are crawling around in the trap, confused but uneaten. You see no carnivorous reed phasmid watching on them. Boathouse is shoddily constructed, a strong breeze might blow it over. So viel Geld liegt einfach rum hier. Wie viele Flaschen und so weiter habe ich jetzt inzwischen eigentlich schon? Ja, ein paar. Ach stimmt, das Ding haben wir ja. Okay, Untersuchung geht dann beim nächsten Mal hier weiter.